Okay, so today we're going to be looking at linear functions in word problems. Y'all did a little bit of this yesterday with average rate of change. So we're going to look at the full word problem today, set them up, and learn how to solve them. So when we're writing and solving word problems in slope-intercept form is your y equals mx plus b. So it's going to have a constant rate, that's your slope, that's m. And it's going to have a starting amount, which is your initial value, and that's b. And like I said, it can be written as y equals mx plus b. So to do this, we're going to identify the independent and dependent. Your independent variable is x. Your dependent variable is y. Then we're going to find the rate of change, which is just your slope. And that's going to be your slope in words. So we have to make sure we write it in words. Then we're going to find the initial value, which is b, and that's going to be your y-intercept, but again, it's going to be in words. And then we'll just plug them into the equation and solve. So for example 1, you're visiting Baltimore, Maryland, and a taxi company charges a flat fee of $3 for using the taxi and 75 cents per mile. How much would an 8-mile taxi ride cost? So, to find your rate of change, you're going to look for those rate words that we had in the lesson yesterday. You're going to look for per, each, or every. Where in the sentence does it say per, each, or every? Right here. That per is going to give you your rate of change. What's around it is your rate of change. 75 cents per mile. So you just write that under rate of change. Your initial value is what it starts with. Just for getting in the taxi, using that taxi company, you have to pay a certain amount of money. That's called your flat fee. And that flat fee is $3. So writing your y-intercept in words for this one is super easy. You just have to put the dollar sign. Sometimes it's that easy. Sometimes you'll have to put like 3 months or 3 miles or 3 something like that. But this one is just a dollar sign. So write an equation that you could use to find the cost of the taxi ride in Baltimore. So your independent is going to be your x. Your dependent is going to be your y. And these are called let statements. So we always write let statements when we're describing x and y. To find those, it's really easy. Go back to that per. What comes before it is going to be y. Not the number, but the word. That's $70.75. So dollars, the cost, that's your y. That's your money. What comes after per, that's going to be x. So we have miles, so miles is x. Because your cost depends on your miles. So you can look at it as what depends on what, or you can go to that rate word. What comes before it is y, what comes after it is x. For your independent, dependent, your x and y, you never put numbers. These are just words. These are just words. There are no numbers. So then we write our equation, our y equals mx plus b. So for m, that's where you're going to put your rate of change. Our rate of change was 0.75, so y equals 0.75x plus your initial. And your initial here was $3, so plus 3. Do not put words in this. Do not put dollar signs. Nothing else. You only put the numbers, the x, and the y equals. That is it. Then use your equation to answer the question. The question wants to know how much would an 8-mile taxi ride cost. So to figure out what we're going to plug into, x or y, we look at what they give us. They gave us 8 miles. What is miles, x or y? Miles is x, so we're going to plug 8 into x. So y equals 0.75 times 8 plus 3. When we plug this into our calculator, Mine's going to take a second to pull up, so we'll use it on the next one. When we plug it in, we get y equals 9. Your questions are always going to say write it with correct units. All that means is put it in words. What is 9? We wanted to know how much a taxi ride would cost. Cost is money, so this is $9. So that dollar sign is your correct units. That's your words. Okay, if your taxi ride cost $15, how many miles did it travel? So 15, is that X or Y? Which one is money? Your money is Y. So I'm going to write this one over here. Oh, I'm on the eraser. Okay, so 15 is Y because that's money up here. So we're going to plug it into Y. So 15 equals 0.75x plus 3. Anytime you plug into y, you're going to have to solve it. So you do the opposite of what you have. So instead of plus 3, I'm going to minus 3. 15 minus 3 is 12. And this is 0.75 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide 0.75. So it cancels out. And 12 divided by 0.75. We're going to get 16. So x equals 16. Anytime you solve a word problem, you have to put it in correct units, in words. So what is this? 16 what? What did the question ask for? How many miles? So this is 16 miles. Perfect. Okay, let's try example 2. A student earns 98% on a test for answering 1 question correctly and earns 90% for answering 5 questions correctly. What score would a student earn for answering 13 questions correctly? So what's the rate of change? When you want the rate of change, you look for your rate words. You look for per, each, or every. Read your sentence again and find per, each, or every. Well, this one doesn't have per, each, or every. This is a problem where they didn't give you the rate, they gave you points, just like the lesson yesterday. If you go back to the lesson from yesterday, this is actually the exact question from one of the problems yesterday. They gave us a 98% for answering 1 question incorrectly, a 90% for answering 5 questions incorrectly. They gave us points here. We have to find the rate of change. Now, to do this, we need to know what independent and dependent are. So we have questions and we have the grade. Which one depends on the other? Which one changes because of the other? Well, your grade is going to change because you get questions wrong. So your grade depends, your grade depends on the questions you get wrong. So your grade, or your points, whichever one you want to put, depends on how many questions you get incorrect. So grade depends on questions. That means the questions are going to be X, they're going to go first. The grade is Y, so it's going to go second. So for a 98% grade, that's your grade, so it goes second in the Y spot. You got that on a test for answering 1 question incorrect. So 1 question gets you a 98. You get a 90%, that's your grade, so it goes second, for answering 5 questions incorrect. Questions incorrect is X, so it goes first. Then we have to use our slope formula to solve. So your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you know this is your xy point, so x, y, x, y. The first point, those are your 1s, x1 and y1. The second point are your 2s, x2 and y2. Then you're going to plug it in. Y2 is 90 minus Y1 is 98 over X2 is 5 minus X1 is 1. Then we just plug it in. So we hit alpha y equals, enter, to get our fraction bar. 90 minus 98 on top, and 5 minus 1 on the bottom. So we get -2 as our answer. Now your rate of change, this is your slope in words. So you have to put -2 in words. What is happening to this? So -2, that means that's your grade. So that's -2 points for everything you get wrong. So you are losing, loses 2 points for every incorrect question. You lose 2 points for every incorrect question. That's your rate of change, that whole phrase. You lose 2 points every incorrect question, or for every incorrect question. What's the initial value? What do you start with? When you take a test, before you get anything wrong, what is your grade? If you haven't missed a single question, well, you start with 100 points. It doesn't tell us that in the question, but it's expecting you to know before you get a single question wrong, you have 100 points on your test. So then we write our equation, y equals mx plus b. So m is your rate of change. What was our rate of change? It was -2. So -2x plus, what's your initial? Before you get anything wrong, you have 100 points, so plus 100. So use the equation to answer the question with correct units. What score would a student earn for answering 13 questions incorrect? What is 13? Is it X or is it Y? Which one is 13 questions incorrect? Well, questions incorrect we labeled as X. So that means we're going to plug it in to X. So we do y equals -2. 13 questions wrong goes into X plus 100. And then we plug it in. So -2 times 13 plus 100. We have 74. And then you have to answer it with correct units. So what is 74? 74 is your Y. What is Y? Y is your grade, your points. So this is a 74, you get 74 points for your grade. If you put a grade of 74, that's completely fine as well. As long as it has something to do with your grade, your points. How many questions would a student answer incorrectly to earn a score of 66? What is 66? X or Y? Well, 66 is your grade, and grade is Y. So that means we're going to take 66 and plug it into Y. For these questions, we're going to have to solve it. Do the opposite. So instead of plus 100, we're going to subtract 100. 66 minus 100, you can always double check in your calculator. That gives us -34. This is -2 times x, so what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So we divide 2. So -34 divided by -2. So we get 17 as our answer. But again, we have to answer it with correct units. What is 17? What is the question asking for? The question says, how many questions would a student answer incorrectly? So this is 17 incorrect questions. You can look at the question for that, or you can go back to your X variable, which was questions incorrect. Either one of them is going to tell you you're looking for incorrect questions. So that's what 17 is. Okay, on the next one, example 3, an airplane's rate of descent is shown in the table below. Assume the plane continues at the same rate of descent. The plane's height and minutes above the ground are related to each other, and find the altitude of the plane after 11 minutes. So we have minutes on top, altitude in feet on the bottom. So what's the rate of change? Well, for that, sometimes we can find it using those rate words, per, each, or every. Do you see a rate word in the sentence up here? No, there's no per, each, or every. So for that, we're going to have to go to our table. We know how to find slope from a table. We did that last week, or earlier this week. All you have to do is subtract up on both sides, all the way. So starting at the bottom, 24,000 minus 26,000. So 24,000 minus 26,000. Then we get negative 2,000. 26,000 minus 28,000. And we get negative 2,000. And we should get the same number all the way up. 28,000 minus 30,000. It's good to check it just to make sure, because sometimes we mess up when we're subtracting. Negative 2,000. We might put it in a calculator wrong, or we might miss one of those 1,000 zeros right there. So it's always good to double check. Do the same thing to the top. 3 minus 2 is 1. Middle one, 2 minus 1 is 1. And the last one, 1 minus 0, is also 1. When we write our slope, we have to remember it's rise over run, which is y over x. The change in y over the change in x. Which one of these is x and which one of these is y? Which one depends on the other? Well, your altitude is going to depend on how much time you're in the air, how many minutes. So your altitude in feet depends on the number of minutes. So minutes is x, altitude is y, which means negative 2,000, the difference on the bottom, it's going to go in the y spot. It's going to go on the top of the fraction, and 1, which was your difference in minutes, is going to go on the bottom. So negative 2,000 over 1, that doesn't it simplifies to negative 2,000. Rate of change we have to write in words. So negative 2,000, it's descending 2,000. What? Y was feet, if you go back to your variables, and x is minutes. So 2,000 feet per minute. Always use one of your rate words, per, each, or every. It descends 2,000 feet per minute. What's the initial value? Where do we find our y-intercept? We find our y-intercept at 0. So what number is at 0? 30,000. And again, we have to write it in words. What is 30,000? Well, that row on the bottom, that's your altitude in feet. So this is 30,000 feet. Okay, for our equation, we just plug it all in. Y equals mx plus b. M is your rate of change. So what was our rate of change? Well, it descended 2,000, so it was negative 2,000. And then x plus b is your initial. What is the initial? 30,000 feet, so 30,000. We don't put words in the equation, so don't put feet per minute, don't put 30,000 feet, none of that. Just y equals negative 2,000x plus 30,000. Then we answer a question with correct units. So the question at the very top said find the altitude of the plane after 11 minutes. What is 11? X or Y? What is minutes? Well, minutes down here is X. So that means for 11, we're going to plug it into X. So Y equals negative 2,000. I'm going to write this somewhere else. Right over here. Negative 2,000 times 11 minutes plus 30,000. And we just plug it in. Negative 2,000 times 11 minutes plus 30,000. Don't drop any of those zeros. I know it's a lot of zeros and we tend to forget some of them. Make sure you get them all in the calculator. And we get 8,000. Write it with correct units. What is y equals? Y equals is your altitude in feet. So this is 8,000 feet. Okay, then we're going to see how long does it take the plane to reach an altitude of 12,000 feet. So what is an altitude of 12,000 feet? X or Y? Well, altitude in feet is Y, so we're going to plug 12,000 into Y. And then we're going to solve it, starting with addition and subtraction. What's the opposite of plus 30,000? We're going to subtract. So 12,000 minus 30,000, that gives us negative 18,000. Okay, then we have negative 2,000x, that's multiplication, negative 2,000 times x. So to get rid of it, we divide. We do the opposite. So x equals negative 18,000 divided by negative 2,000 is 9. But what is 9? Again, we have to get those correct units. What is x equals? X equals was minutes. So this is 9 minutes. Make sure you put the correct units on it. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, for E, what if a violent storm is approaching and the plane has to increase its descent to 6,000 minutes every 3 minutes? How would this affect your equation? The first thing you have to think about when you're looking at this is what is this number? 6,000 feet every 2 minutes. Is it a rate of change? Does it have a rate word? Or is it an initial value? Is that where they're starting? Well, this one has a rate word. It has the word every. Because it has a rate word, that means we're going to change our rate of change. So we're not going to use negative 2,000. We're still going to keep plus 30,000 because we're still starting at the same height. Let me take that comma out real quick so I don't mess y'all up when you write your answers. So we're still going to have 30,000 for our y-intercept. We just need to find the new slope. It's increasing its descent to 6,000 every 2 minutes. So descending, that means it's going to be negative. So negative 6,000 feet every 2 minutes. So this is always going to be y over x. Which one is the altitude in feet? Well, that's 6,000 feet, so that's going to go on top. And x is minutes, so x goes on the bottom, so that's going to be 2 minutes. Now, we always have to make sure everything we plug into our equations are simplified. So what is negative 6,000 divided by 2? We get negative 3,000. So instead of our slope being negative 2,000, it's going to change to negative 3,000. So your full equation is going to be y equals negative 3,000x plus 30,000. So it affects your equation by changing the slope. It changes the rate of change. Okay, example 4. To make the perfect pizza, there should be 4 pieces of pepperoni per 3 slices of mushrooms. If you put 24 pieces of pepperoni on the pizza, how many mushroom slices should you use? So we need to find the rate of change and the initial value. For the rate of change, always start by looking for a rate word, per, each, or every. If we can find that, we won't have to do any work. So where in the sentence does it say per, each, or every? Well, it says it right here. 4 pieces of pepperoni per 3 slices of mushroom. If you can find that word, that'll give you your full rate of change. So you're going to get 4 pepperonis, and you can put pieces of pepperoni. I just don't have that much space. Per 3 mushrooms or slices of mushrooms. What's the initial value? How many, when you start making a pizza, how many pepperonis and mushrooms do you have on it? Well, if you haven't started making it, you have nothing. You have 0. Now, your rate of change and your initial value, these have to be in words. So that's 0 what? Pepperonis or mushrooms? For that, for initial value, that's always your y-intercept. So we have to figure out what is y, what is x, what is y. So we can figure out what 0 is. So to figure that out, we can go back to that rate word, that per. What comes before it is y. What comes after it is x. Remember, not the number, but the word. So these pepperonis before per, that is your y. Y is pepperonis. And then after per, you had mushrooms. So x is mushrooms. So which one is the initial value? Which one is the y-intercept? Well, for that, we're going to look at y. Y is pepperonis, so this is going to be 0 pepperonis. Okay, then we do our equation. So for y equals mx plus b, m is your rate of change. What's our rate of change? We have 4 pepperonis per 3 mushrooms. So we can't put all those words in there. This is just 4 over 3. So we just put 4 over 3 in our equation. 4 peps per 3 mushrooms. And then x plus b is your initial. So what was our initial? Well, over here it's 0. So plus 0 we don't need, so we can just erase that off. You never have to put plus 0. And then use your equation to answer with correct units. So the question says, if we put 24 pieces of pepperoni on the pizza, how many mushroom slices would we use? So 24 pieces of pepperoni, is that X or Y? Which one is pepperoni? Well, pepperonis is Y, so we're going to plug 24 into Y. So 24 equals 4/3 X. When you have to solve, again, we're going to do the opposite. With fractions, how we can get rid of this, there's a lot of ways we can get rid of this. Probably one of the easiest is just to flip it upside down. So multiply, but flip it upside down. So instead of 4/3, we're going to do 3/4. So that'll cancel out your 4s and your 3s, and we'll move it to the other side. And we can just put it in the calculator. So alpha y equals, enter to get a fraction, 3/4. Then we're going to multiply by that 24. So 3/4 times 24 is 18. So x equals 18. Again, anytime we do a word problem, we have to answer with correct units. What is x equals? X equals is mushrooms. So this is going to be 18 mushrooms. Or mushroom slices if you want to put slices. Perfect. Okay, example 5. An appliance salesman is paid $50 every day plus some unknown amount for every appliance he sells that day. One day the salesman made $475 after selling 17 appliances. How much does he get paid per appliance? So for this one, we didn't have all the questions because this one's a little special. We can go back to look at our rate words. Remember your per, each, or every. The only problem here is we have every day, we have every appliance, and we have per appliance. So we have 3 of them. This $50 every day, this is just, we're only trying to figure out a 1 day pay for him. We don't want to look at a whole week or a whole year. So this every day, we don't need that because we're only looking at 1 day here. The question wants to know how much does he get paid per appliance. So we're going to look at these appliances, every appliance and per appliance. We don't, so we have a rate word for both of them, every appliance and per appliance. They're the same thing. He gets an unknown amount for every appliance. How much does he get paid per appliance? It's the same exact question. So when we do our equation, y equals mx plus b, we have to find our rate of change, and we have to find our initial. For your rate of change, you're going to look for your rate word. So we already found those, every appliance and per appliance. The only problem is we don't know how much he gets for every appliance. So we don't know what that rate of change is. Because the question literally wants to know how much does he get paid per appliance. So we're going to have to solve. That's what's special about this one. We have to solve for the rate of change. We're not solving for x or y here. We're solving for the rate of change. Anytime you see your per, each, or every, your rate word inside of your question, the actual last question on the whole paragraph, you're going to have to solve for rate of change. So we have to plug something in to y equals, to x, and to b so we can solve for m. So going back to the initial, how much does he start with for going to work that day? Well, just for going to work, he gets paid $50. He didn't have to sell a single thing. He gets paid $50. So that's going to be your initial. So I'm going to put plus 50. Then I'm going to move that down. So plus 50. So what is y? Well, for this, we need to know what are x and y. What are our variables? So we can go back to that rate word. That per, or you can use every. Before per is your y, and it talks about how much he gets paid. So that's money. After per is going to be your x. That's your appliances. So x is appliances, y is money. So we want to plug in to y equals mx plus b to solve for m. So where does it give us more money? We already know he gets $50 for going to work, but what else could we plug into y? Where is there another money? Well, it says on one day he made $475. So we plug that in to y, because that's your money. We're solving for m, so leave that alone because we didn't get a rate of change. But we need an x. X is appliances. So where does it tell us a number for appliances? Well, that $475 that he made, he got it for selling 17 appliances. So that's going to go into x. And then we're just going to solve it. So do the opposite of what you see, starting with your addition and subtraction. So with plus 50, we're going to do the opposite, which is minus 50. So 475 minus 50 is 425. I'm going to have to scoot over a little. And we got that 17m to deal with. 17 times m, what's the opposite of times? Well, we divide. So m equals, we got 425 divided by 17, and we're going to get 25. So m is 25. So how much does he get paid per appliance? Well, m was 25, so he's going to get, one second, let me change it. He's going to get $25 per appliance. So we had to solve for the rate of change because they didn't give us a rate of change. But they gave us something to put in for x. They gave us appliances. They gave us money to put in for y. And they also gave us the starting value, how much he gets paid just for going to work before he sells anything. That's your start. That's your B. And then you just plug it in and solve for m. Okay, so try the rest of the examples. The rest of the practice. Good luck.